Hey friends, welcome back to Cannabis with Tiff, your space for mindful growing, plant care, and cannabis love. Whether you're tending your first seedling or running your own caregiver grow, I'm so glad you're here. Today, we're diving into cloning. Not sci-fi style, but good old-fashioned plant propagation. If you've ever looked at your favorite cultivar and thought, damn, I want 10 more of you, then cloning is your answer. So what is cloning really? At its simplest, cloning is cutting a piece of cannabis plant and encouraging it to grow roots. You're creating a genetic copy of the original, also called the mother plant. Here's the cool part. When you take a cutting from your mother plant, you're asking that little piece of stem to switch jobs. Normally, its cells are focused on growing upward, making leaves, and flowering. But when you cut it, you trigger a stress response. Plant hormones called auxins rush to the side of the cut, telling the cells, hey, we're not making stems anymore, we're making roots. That's why we use rooting hormone. It adds a boost of synthetic auxins right at the wound site to speed things up. An environment with high humidity and gentle light help the cutting survive without roots because it's getting moisture through its leaves instead of soil. Over the next few days, those cells at the base reorganize, form little white root initials, and eventually push out full roots. When the roots can take in water and nutrients on their own, this means the clone has become an independent plant, genetically identical to her mom. And here's the beauty of cloning. Consistency. You get the same terp profile, growth habits, and yield potential every time. If you love a pheno, you can keep her going for years with the right care. Now that we know what cloning is and why it's so valuable, let's start where the process truly begins, with the mother plant. Your mom is the foundation of every clone you take. She needs to be strong, healthy, and stable, pest-free and stress-free, and kept in a clean environment with regular feeding and pruning. I keep my moms under 18:6 lighting in fabric pots and with good airflow. And I like to shape them like a bush so there are plenty of strong branches to take from. Once your mom is healthy and ready, it's time to get hands-on. So let's go step by step through exactly how I take and root my clones. First, clean tools are non-negotiable. I always start by sterilizing my scissors with isopropyl alcohol. This keeps pathogens out of the fresh cut, and it gives your clone the best possible start. Next, choose your cut. I aim for a 4 to 6 inch top, cutting just below a node. I make my cut at a clean 35 to 45 degree angle. This gives more surface area for rooting and it helps the plant take up water. Then, remove the lower leaves. I strip off the big fan leaves at the bottom so that the plant's energy goes straight into rooting instead of trying to support excess foliage. After that, trim the leaf tips. On the leaves that I keep, I snip the tips to reduce surface area. This slows moisture loss and nudges the plant to focus on root development. Next, lightly zest the stem. Before dipping, I gently scrape the outer layer of the stem with clean scissor blades, just enough to expose a bit of the cambium layer. Think of it like giving the stem peach fuzz. Doing this encourages faster, stronger root growth. Then, dip the cutting into rooting hormone. I use Clonex gel, but any trusted brand works to give the cutting that extra auxin boost. Next, place the cutting into a starter medium. I prefer coco coir or rock wool because they hold moisture well and give the roots room to breathe. After that, make sure your water or misting solution is dialed in. I keep the pH between 5.5 and 6 to support root development and prevent shock. And finally, you want to create the right environment. I set the cuttings under a humidity dome with gentle light, aiming for 90 to 100% humidity for the first few days. I mist them lightly each day, never soaking the medium, and I'll keep a soft airflow moving to prevent mold. Roots usually start showing in 7 to 10 days, and once they're strong enough, you can up-pot them. Now that your clones are cut and in their new home, the next big piece of the puzzle is feeding them right so they grow strong from day one. First, you'll want to start with a gentle nutrient solution to avoid overwhelming those fresh roots. I like to use Jack's formula 15-6-17. It's balanced enough to encourage strong root development while also still supporting leafy growth. You'll want to mix your nutrients according to the manufacturer's direction, but keep it at about 1/4 to half strength for the first few feedings. This helps your clones adjust without causing nutrient burn. Then, once you see that they're taking off, You can gradually work your way up to full strength feeding. Once you've got that dialed in, there are a few extra tips that can really take your cloning game to the next level. First, you don't want to crowd your dome. Make sure to give each cut breathing room. You do want to label your strains though, especially when you're taking clones from different moms. Also, be patient. Some plants fruit fast, others will take their sweet time. And lastly, celebrate those white roots. It truly never gets old. And that's cloning, from start to finish. It can feel intimidating at first, but once you get into the rhythm, it's one of the most rewarding parts of the grow. You're literally multiplying the love, keeping the genetics you vibe with, and building your garden with intention. Whether you're taking your first cut or refining your process, remember, every great grower started by trying, observing, and trying again. If you've got questions, want to share your setup, or show off those juicy white roots, hit me up on Instagram at cannabis.podcast. I love to see what you guys are working on. Thanks for tuning in. Remember, keep cultivating with care and living in your cannabis.